we're going to talk about creatives changing their careers in
Hmm.
I would say midlife, I guess we could call it midlife. We're all going to live to 100. So we're in our late 40s, early 50s. And
I've decided I'm living to 120. I told somebody that in a comment the other day,
I
but
think it's
that's fine.
possible. I think it's possible.
But yeah, midlife creatives. It's a lot of what we both focus on in our own content and our own publications is like being in this point in time in our lives and figuring out like what the next pivot is because we've talked offline, like we had a call a while ago, but we seemed pretty much on the same page where it's like you can have your best laid plans, but very often that doesn't, I mean, that never really
Yeah.
works out. And you're
Yeah. And
constantly having to like rethink and grow and all that stuff.
like you choose this career when you're in your like teens and 20s. As far as that's what I did as a musician. I was like, cool, I get to play music my whole life. Woohoo, that's cool. And then you realize like what that really means when you enter into the job market and the industry that you're in and everything. And we were just talking about, I found an article that was so good today, and I'll grab the link later because I sent it to
Yeah,
someone, and we could put it in the chat underneath. But
totally.
it was about like if you make a plus sign like this, up here was, what was it, high status, low income, and then there's, that would be us artists, like
Hmm.
we had degrees, like it was saying like degrees in like English literature or something, or I have a master's in music, like big deal. And then I was playing in all these orchestras, and it like on paper, wow, wow, wow. But then like looking at the financials, like we were known in our town as like being in the orchestra, blah blah blah, high status. But like the financials of it was like, okay, we're getting by. It's like we were doing okay, but like actually what's really interesting, if I just to go off on a little tangent, is that like
Yeah.
with the city that we were living in, when me and my husband started there, the real estate was a certain way. And then 15
Hmm.
years later, the new people who come in, there's no way they could live in our neighborhood because suddenly it went from being affordable with that salary, which didn't keep up with inflation, all the way to like the new people would have to live like a 30-minute drive away. We
This
got to
is
live walkable to our
yeah,
place.
that is definitely, I live north of New York City. I lived in New York City for a decade plus.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
my wife and I bought a place a couple hours north, and we were like right on the bleeding edge of, okay, this isn't easy, but we can do it. And now there's no way we could even touch our town,
right.
affordability wise. There's no way.
Right.
So
And then you're
so
stuck. You either have to stay there forever or move somewhere else where it's, and this is the cycle. Like I feel bad for the people that look, what are they saying? Like millennials are like will only be renters, or maybe the ones after millennials, who knows.
mhm.
So that's the high status, low income, which we're sort of conditioned to go for in a lot of ways. Like people think of status as everything, and that's what the article said. Like the status of being able to say you went to, university of whatever, or you have this degree or that degree, that's status. But if it's not matching your salary, that's a big deal. And then the next one was high status, high salary. Those are like the surgeons and the doctors and the specialists and the engineers and the people like that. That's their own category. And then
Yeah,
we
if you're
got,
thinking like a quadrant chart, it's like
yeah, like this.
high status, high income is like up and to the right, and then high status, lower income is up and to the left.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
the low status, low income would potentially be like, um, you know, construction workers or blue collar workers. Sometimes those are low status, high, depending on what it is. Cause I know construction workers and contractors who do really well. But, and then the bottom right would be low status, high income, which is what we're building, right? Because people may or may not know what you do, like, or what you're making, like
Yeah.
internet marketers, people who are selling stuff online, that doesn't really have a ceiling income wise. And the status isn't, it's so new that there's no status to it unless you're like Gary V or something. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that's kind of interesting. And the point of the article was, I'm going for low status, high income. And that's a switch
Mm.
for us artists, going from high status, low income, because now we've like woken up in our midlife and we're going like this lifestyle of creative musician, like your musician film, all
Yep.
this stuff, it fed us in a certain way through our 20s and 30s, and we started our careers that way. But then we're like, wait, what do we want in our 50s, 60s, 70s? What do we want for that life, for our
100%. And
life, you know?
yeah, and it's very similar. So yeah, if anybody listening doesn't know, like Tracy and I both started life as musicians, and about 13 years ago, I split off and I got into filmmaking. And but it's very much the same thing, right? Like you go down these career paths uh for the status and also for like the love of the game or the love of the
Yeah.
creativity. It's like you want it like, oh, this is what I'm passionate about. I want to make this thing my living. And then once you wind up doing that to some degree, you realize, oh wait, this isn't all it's cracked up to be. And I've noticed for myself is like once I've kind of gotten those lines to intersect closer where I'm earning a living, doing the thing I said that I love and want to do, it actually kind of like ruins it a little bit. Not to be like too extreme about it, but it just has like a different connotation, right? And so, and then maybe you wind up in a boat like I've been in. I'm sure you felt this, where it's like then the work starts to feel like a grind, and you feel like obligated that you have to take on these projects to make ends meet.
Yeah.
And yeah, we wind up wanting a different life. Like
I joke a
we're
lot.
both parents. It's like
Yeah, that was the big turning point for me.
yeah.
And I joke a lot that the highlight of my career was when I was a student, because that was
Mm,
when we focused on like the art of it and the stuff that mattered, and like making it really good, you know? And then as soon as I started getting paid, most of the people around me were like, let's just get it done so we can go home, you know?
right,
And it was
right.
like, oh, but it could be better. It could be this, it could be that. And the grumpy old people who'd been in there for 15 years already were like, whatever, I just want this to be over. Run the
Totally.
clock out.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I've
Yeah.
worked on tons of film sets where there's not all, but some where that's kind of the vibe. And so, the kind of the other component to this that I was thinking about while we've been chatting is and now I'm drawing a blank, but it was basically just kind of like being in that track where we were talking about before we went live, you're kind of like just adjacent to like the high status, high income people, where you're high status almost by association. And like the way I equate
Yeah.
that is like I've filmed interviews and stuff for like a ton of celebrities. I've worked with like a ton of big people, and it's I come in for like a day or two and do that. But it's like it's the by association part where it's like the status is up here where I can like put on my resume or my reel or whatever. Oh, worked with such and such. But it's all kind of smoke and mirrors because it doesn't really like move the needle for you or me or whatever. Um,
Right.
so then you wind up in this track where where you realize that you're always kind of beholden to somebody else or to the next gig or whatever. And for me, that's kind of been the impetus behind me wanting to really lean in to building something not only of my own but doing it online or more online, because it's more of just like control over my own destiny, so to speak.
Yeah, it's
um
true. And it is true, like how at first the status of being around those people is a little bit addictive, but then you're like, oh,
oh yeah,
but does this mean anything for my career? Does this mean anything
especially
for
when
my
you're
money?
younger, especially when you're
Yeah, yeah,
younger.
yeah, yeah. I could name so many examples, and like you said, celebrities. I've performed on stage with like really famous people, but in
Totally.
the orchestra in the background, I can say I performed with these people, right? But I mean, was it really? It was. It was on the stage. It's technically it was. We were together. We played music together. But those people aren't. They don't. That doesn't impact my life or my career. It's sort of like when you go viral on a post. You
Hmm.
know, it's like, ooh, I
Hmm.
went viral, or I have 150,000 followers on Instagram. That's like the status, or like in this like online world, that I guess you could relate that to the status. But what does it actually really mean? Because unless it translates to people who really care about what you're doing, who really pay attention, who buy from you, then it means nothing.
Right.
And you're still
Right.
performing for that, like that hit again. Like, ooh, I want to play with whoever, you know.
Yeah. So what has it been like? I mean, for argument's sake, we are kind of in a similar boat. Although Your audience has been taken off, my friend. It's been doing really well. I'm impressed.
Thanks.
But how do I want to phrase it? It's like, what was I understand the motivation behind trying to build something online, but what was kind of like one of the moments where you're like, oh, wait, this thing could have legs, actually. Like something I'm doing is working, or I could see the potential.
Well, it actually didn't start on Substack.
Yeah.
I started with the podcast in
Yes, you
2016,
did.
so it's been a
Hmm.
while. And I was a total noob back then. And because I was so new to like any idea of building a business or online anything, I didn't really know what it would be because I thought, what am I an expert in? What can I share with people? Because my entire career up to that point was playing in an orchestra. I was like, I don't really want to talk about playing my instrument and like teach
Yeah.
it. Like I didn't want, and outside of that, I was like, well, what else could I talk about? But the truth is I had a lot of expertise in the job path, in that career path, since I had done it for so long. And so I realized, one of the things I didn't like about the job path was how hard it was and how little it paid and how the opportunities were so hard to get and how like just to get a job you'd have to audition against like 150 people and they might not even take anybody. Like I've been to so many auditions where they're like they run 4 rounds of an audition, you're there for 2 days, and then at the end of it they say, sorry, none of you are good enough, we'll
Totally.
reschedule it next year. And you're just like, really? I just spent $1,000 and you're just going to tell everyone to go home? And that wasn't the norm. And so when I had finally gotten like a steady gig slash steady paycheck in one orchestra, and that's when I met my husband and got married and eventually had my daughter. And that was by like year 8 or 9 that I was in the orchestra, and I was realizing really how stuck I was. Like I was stuck with the schedule that they had. They would tell me
Yep.
you have to go to here or there, wherever, and plus we were, as a married couple in the same job, we had to just leave together all the time. So we were not, one of us wasn't home. It was like we were always leaving together. So that sucked. Usually parenting tag team style is what makes it
Oh
doable,
yeah.
and it made it harder. So I was like, this lifestyle doesn't work for me, and I wasn't super excited about. Oh, hey, Hussein joined, and I left you a snarky comment on one of your posts today. So
That's why he's here.
welcome. What?
He's here to come get you.
He's here to
Yeah.
yell at me. No, I'm kidding. Um, I just made a joke about about something about X that he was talking about. So anyway, I'm bitter about X. Um, so anyway, so that was like the impetus of me saying, there's got to be a better way. But I didn't really know what to do, so I started interviewing musicians who had created unique careers, and so I actually got some really badass people on my podcast that like. Probably today it would have been much harder because podcasting was new. Nobody was asking these people for interviews. So I really pretty much had nobody say no to me in the entire 6 years. And I had some really big people. Like there's people that like I caught on the rising star path and
Yeah.
now they're huge. Like there's this duo in Australia called Two Set Violin who, thanks, um, Two Set Violin, who does like, they started making like silly kind of classical music joke videos on YouTube and they became
Sure.
like an internet sensation. But I interviewed them when they were like, they had just had one viral video and
Yeah.
they were just getting started. And then much later on, they had a world tour and they were like, I mean, they have a fan base around the entire world. Like it would
So
be really
funny.
hard to get them again. And then there's this guy named Babatunde. That's his last name is Akinboye, something like that. He's
Okay.
African, but
Yeah.
he's American. He's an opera singer and he also loves hip hop and he grew up with hip hop. So one day he was like in his car and he used to like drive around in his car and like beatbox and like do hip hop beats to like actual opera arias. And
Mm.
one day he just recorded himself doing it in the car and he was like singing and it was beautiful because he's got a great voice and he posted it on Facebook and just didn't think anything of it. Went to bed. The next day he was like getting calls from Ellen to be on his show and it was like it took off and he became like this internet sensation. But we had this great conversation about how like the opera world wasn't really smiling down on him for that, because he was
Sure.
mixing modern stuff with like this old ancient tradition. So there were all these cool cross current themes that we could talk about. And I grew the podcast, and then I grew also the writing part, the social media side on Instagram and Facebook, and my email list eventually. And then I started making offers. And actually, I made my first group cohort at the end of 2019 to help other musicians who wanted to like build an audience around whatever it is, their expertise, their teaching. And I had a couple of people, I only had 4 people join my very first cohort. And
So
one of
what?
them
It's
like
great.
just took off. Yeah, she
Yeah.
like immediately, as soon as I guided her just a little bit, because she was already doing stuff online, she took off and like made like $8,000 her first offer, doing the
Well,
same thing.
yeah. So it's interesting, and we both have that podcast background because I still host mine, and I'm here in a podcast studio. It's my studio here.
That's
Like
why it
I'm
sounds
kind of
so nice. Sounds really
thank you.
good.
I'm kind of ingrained in that world a bit, and so I sort of like got into the writing after or in conjunction on the later side of the podcasting, because I'm like, oh wait, I'm having all these conversations. I'm getting like some people of note that I can speak with that like have audiences. Like I'm generating all this content, and I have also opinions. And what was interesting for me is like you start getting some of recurring themes throughout like that whole sample set of people you're interviewing. It's like a lot of the same stuff or the same like
Yes. And it gives
hang-ups
you
keep coming up,
content. It gives
and
you
it gives you
content
content.
ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like you've done something that I have yet to do, which is like, put an offer out or like productize something that is like just a little bit to the side of what your expertise was for so long. And I've been
Yeah.
having that conversation with myself because on the surface, I've been in film for 13 years and a cinematographer for most of that. And that's what it is. But the deeper part of that is like, well, what's my real expertise other than being able to point a camera at something and make it look nice? It's like, I'm totally self-taught. I never freelanced before getting into this stuff. So it's like, I figured out on my own how to freelance, how to build a business, how to like advocate for myself, charge appropriate money, like all this stuff, like basically have become like my own one person media company. And that is stuff of value that other people want to know, want to learn, and things like that. So all of that has kind of like motivated the online pivot. But yeah, like just having that like depth of conversation with other people and background, and just some reps of just like seeing what keeps coming up for people at all different stages. It's really, really
Yeah, because you know
interesting.
what I learned? The biggest thing I learned is because then right after that first cohort, then COVID hit. And then
Yeah.
suddenly everyone was like, tell me what you do. Like I immediately launched another cohort, and I had like the first time I told you I had 4 people. The next time I had 15 people. It was
Amazing.
like that fast it was because I was riding the wave of, oh my God, everyone wants to be online right now. We have to solve this problem.
Sure.
So that was cool. And that showed me, okay, this is possible. And it was great. But to what you had just said, like you find out a lot by selling something. Number one, usually you sell
Hmm.
something based on what they're already interested in from your writing and from your offer or from your like content, that was my big mistake on my first one, because my offers weren't necessarily it wasn't related enough. That was my big mistake. But among others, lots and lots and lots of mistakes out my first time out.
Sure. That's
But
how you learn.
yeah, but this is what I learned. The biggest thing was that most people, it wasn't the how to write a post or how to set up your social media or how to create an offer. Most people were like, I'm scared shitless to say what I do because this person over here is a more famous expert than me. And what if he sees what I say and then he disagrees or he thinks bad of me? It's like, oh my God. First of all, they won't see it probably. Second of all, like there's so many mindset things. I was almost 100% dealing with mindset. And so that was the cool thing about leading a live cohort, is that I could change the content in real time. If you make a course, you already created the whole content, it might not handle anyone's problems because you don't know what their problems are. So that's how I ran my whole entire business for me. And it was always for musicians at the beginning because I had
Yeah.
created this podcast for musicians. I was always talking to musicians because I understood their plight. I understood their issues and all that stuff. Eventually I had to pivot away from the audience because it was too specific. It was too narrow.
I'm with
And
you. Yeah.
and most of those people didn't want to change. They liked their low status, high status, low pay. They preferred it. And so that's
Yeah.
okay. I mean, that's fine. Just the choosing of a subset of people shouldn't be people you have to convince to do something. So that's what I always say when people are choosing niches. I'm like, don't choose someone where you have to be like, come on this way. This is gonna be cool. Come
Oh
with me.
man, to like go a little off top, not really off topic. I'll bring it back around quickly, but it's like the whole idea of like the advice of like niche down super hard and super narrow. It's like, I personally have like weird feelings about that because of my experience. Because when I started my podcast, it started primarily just talking to filmmakers and photographers because that's like where I was, and then through that, I started realizing that my interests were a little bit broader, not narrower. They were broader. I was like, oh wait, I love the creativity side, but I'm also interested in like how people are being entrepreneurial with their creativity and how they're, kind of doing their own thing and like being successful. And like in that time, I had also gone through some business mentorship, which like really opened up and expanded like my brain a little bit in the possibilities of things. Cause I was in a cohort with other people. Maybe one other person was a film person. Everybody else was in something totally different. It was just like, my horizons got expanded a little bit. So then the concept of like niching down, and we are not going to make a conversation about that because it is like a super divisive and granular thing online lately. But it's just like I came up with a phrase that I can't remember when I'll have to write it down if it ever like comes back into my brain. But it's like, yes, you can get a little focused. In my opinion, it's like you can get focused, but if you go super hard on a niche, especially something that's like doesn't have any money in it, I hate to say it that way, but if
Oh
there's no
no.
money in it, then like who are you talking to that you're going to try and like build a business with?
That's
Really?
true. That's true. That's true. If there's no money in it, and also, but you know what's really interesting? People have money for stuff they really want. And
Correct.
so it's like there's two ways to look at the money thing. Don't go for an audience that's super broke. Like I wouldn't want to market to people who just graduated from college. That would not be a niche I would ever choose.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, they already think they know what they want and they don't have money. So that's out. But the other thing about this is that the other coaches in my teeny tiny niche of classical music were regularly filling out cohorts that cost five figures,
Yeah.
for high 4 and 5 figures. But the niche wasn't big enough to support more people doing that. So then it became like too small and then it became suffocating. And then,
Mm-hmm.
then I just had to leave. And then I became super confused. Like, okay, I already had gone through the kind of, for a while, like a while before that, I had gone through the whole identity crisis of, if I'm not a musician, then what am I kind of? And then I'm like, well, I'm
Yes.
always,
Totally.
and it's like, I'm always going to be a musician. I have all this stuff in my brain that I
Mm-hmm.
studied, that I did all of those years. It doesn't make me less of a musician to do a business, but it does make me less of a musician that I'm not schlepping around and playing concerts. And that's
Mm-hmm.
fine because I would much rather put my time and effort into something that I can control. Because otherwise, you can't control if someone offers you a gig. You can't control if like I remember getting, like, you make a certain level and then people still offer you like, hey, do you want to do a wedding gig? It's 3 hours away and it pays $100, and you're just like, why are you even asking me?
Yeah.
But
That
it
yeah.
does continue to happen like that, where it's like, really, this is going to take me 7 hours, plus you guys are going to want to rehearse, so add that to it. And like, that's the problem too with artists, is that they're willing to do stuff for the art of it. I mean, I remember getting extremely pissed off one time because I played a concert that had this extra piece of the puzzle. We had to play this other instrument that's related to the horn, which we have to play like in a handful of pieces. It's called the
Mm-hmm.
Wagner tuba, and only French horn players play it, and it's only used every now and then.
Okay.
And it was a really big, important part, and for this symphony that we were playing, and we had to rehearse it on the side. So we rehearsed it, and we put in extra, like 3 or 4 extra rehearsals on top of what we were already doing with the orchestra. And at the end of the week, they said, "Oh no, you don't get paid extra for playing that instrument." Because usually, if you play a second instrument, you get doubling, which means you get like an extra, I don't know, $100 for every time you showed up with that different instrument.
Bump and pay, yeah.
You don't get the bump and pay. Sorry, you're not a regular member of the orchestra, so you don't get the bump and pay.
Yeah.
I was like, but we did this so that it would sound good and that it would be in tune and that it would be great. And it's just little things like that most people are like, well, it's just how it is. But I'm just not it is how it is person.
Yeah,
So
I get that. And in my world, it's going through a transitional period where I've found that I need to kind of set some really hard guardrails for myself, where it's like, okay, what's my floor on what I'll say yes to on like a production gig?
On those gigs, yeah.
Because for me, usually that's load up a car full of equipment and drive to New York and deal with all that. Is it worth it or is it not? And it's like very similar, right? It's
that's what happens in your 40s and 50s. That's what I think. I mean, in my 20s, I'd be like, oh, a gig that pays, X amount. I have to drive 2 hours there and 2 hours back. Sure. Count me in.
Yeah.
It was like that all the time, because what else are you going to do? And you're just building your career. But after you become a parent, after you see another way, that you can do things, that you're like, not only are you creating your own income, but when you're showing up on Substack, you're building a body of work for like future work that you're going to do and future collaborations and future connections. And that's why it's so worth it. That's why it's like so worth it. It's so interesting because here we are on Substack. We're having a live conversation, and anyone who's listening, you might feel this like, oh God, Substack is such a pain. Like, I just want to do my work, and I just want clients, and I want to focus on the work part, not really the content creation. Or now I have to go live. I came here to be a writer. Man, and it's like, yeah, I get that. Those are all valid concerns, but also it's part of the building process, and it's the some of the bricks that you're laying for the thing that you're building that's going to be thriving in the future. It's kind of inevitable, and that's the thing that I love watching and seeing, and it sort of makes me feel really impatient at a lot of times. If you look at people like, and I know these are some examples of really, really successful people, but people like Dan Coe, Justin Welsh, people who started maybe 6 or 7 or 8 years, no, not even 8, like maybe 2019, 2020, they started. And today, look at where they're at. Like, they figured out something, but they also weren't where they are today when they started.
Yeah,
like, I've done it. I've opened up Dan Coe's Instagram, and it takes 10 minutes to scroll all the way to the bottom. What was he posting in 2019? Just go have a look. It's not mind-blowing. He put down each brick every day for 6 years, and now what you read is the result of that.
Well, a really good analogy, like, because I lived in New York for so long, it's like you would go, you'd walk by or like, see construction sites everywhere all the time, and you'd see the same construction sites all the time, and there would be nothing for like a year. You would see nothing. And all that is getting the foundation right. And then once the foundation is done, that building goes up super fast. And it's a really, like, maybe it's a little cliche, but it's totally on point, where it's like, if you get the foundation right, you can build as high as you want to go.
Yeah,
but if the foundation sucks, like, you got nothing. It's all going to fall over.
Exactly. And that's the thing that I think I felt, and probably you did too, is that, like, what is it building if I schlep all my stuff to the city and go and do this gig? What is it building if I go play this wedding gig for $100 or whatever?
Yeah,
it's not building anything. It's not building anything towards something that you own, that's yours, that big skyscraper that you're working on right now.
I mean, I kind of got to a point where I'm like, okay, what am I trying to do here? Shoot bigger and better projects. Great. What's the end goal for that? To just, like, keep shooting projects that are, like, more high stakes. And yeah, maybe I make some more money, but also,
you're still on the grind. You're still on the hamster wheel.
And if anybody out there has been paying attention to, like, the state of, like, film and TV in Hollywood in the last 2 years, it's a freaking mess. Like, I know 1 or 2 people who have, like, really ideal setups, and do really well in the industry, and everybody else is kind of struggling, and it's not really for me.
We're plus we're in such a massive shift right now with everything. You
Mm-hmm.
know, obviously, so cliche. Oh, AI is going to change the world. It is already changing the world. I don't think we even have any clue how much it's going to change things. And really, the only hedge that you can bet, is that how you say it, against that is to do something that you know is yours.
Yes.
Like, you know, and actually, you know, it's funny. I have thought, well, if we circle back to more human things, then
Mm-hmm.
maybe there will be more independent filmmakers. Maybe there'll be more people who want to see live music in a small setting, and those can be some cool experiences that people have. But you know what? The other thing I've thought too is that if I after I have my empire built,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'll take my horn out again and do it for fun. Because it's not going to take time away from this thing that I really want to build, you
Yeah,
know?
totally.
So,
Yeah, I have a folder full of song ideas on my phone that are just itching to get written and recorded, but you know, someday, not anytime soon. But yeah, there was something else I was going to add to that. I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it's you know, it's oh, my camera just went out of focus. There we go. You know, it's interesting because being here on Substack, which actually is really cool that there's 26 people here. That's pretty rad.
I know, I
Um,
love it. I
I love
love it.
that.
I'm
Thank you
seeing
guys
some
so much
people
for
come
showing
in.
up.
I'm
Yeah,
going to scroll down and see any comments that have come in because I always feel bad when
do
people
it. Do it.
comment.
Yeah, I have a little tiny screen that's hard for me to see because my
I'm
eyes
on
are
my
getting old.
phone. Jen
Oh,
says I
even
don't
better.
love all the notes of the successful stackers. It's like an anthology. Don't like it. Turn the page. Don't like it. Turn the page. Now I'm trying to apply that to my work. It's okay if all my stuff,
Yeah, she's
if
saying
not all
like
my stuff is
if
liked.
there's something you don't see, it's totally fine. You can move on, and that applies to kind of your own stuff. It's like you're not going to ever please everybody, including
Everybody.
yourself. Including yourself. I get so in my head every week when I put something out. Um,
Right. You
but
know,
you know,
I
you
wrote
just
a
have to
note.
keep moving. You just have to keep
Yeah,
moving.
I wrote a note that says every note is a filter. Like if it if it filters out some people and they don't stick around, good. Also,
Hmm.
I have note flops all the time. All the biggest creators on Substack also have notes that flop. You should go and look at the flops and wonder, why
Totally.
are they flopping? I love talking about notes. That's why I'm teaching it and writing about it all the time because I think it's a really valuable skill to build. If you can give someone one idea that resonates in a moment that they're scrolling, because scrolling is not going away. In
No,
fact, every platform turns on a scroll situation. Substack is a lovely scroll because it's not this endless assault of, you know,
agree.
crap. It's nice
Agree.
and you can read and you can slow down. But not everything is like, wow, this is the most amazing thing I've ever read. And that's fine too.
Yeah.
But you know, it's meant to start a conversation. It's meant to get to know people. I've met a lot of people through notes, you know,
Same.
and
I met you through notes.
probably, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So if you broaden like what your definition of it is, like you have to do it because it grows your Substack. How about you're doing it to start conversations? You're doing it to meet friends. You're doing it to interact. You're doing it to create a micro work of art, a micro, you know, list of things that you've already said because people will go to your profile and they can
Well,
see some
yeah.
of the things that you've said.
And it's also just a great place to like test things out. And you know, it's so funny.
Test, exactly.
I should pay attention to what I'm about to say, which is, and maybe all you guys should too, is every time I try really hard to make notes that are like structured and like say something, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, this is great. And they kind of don't do anything. And best notes, and I don't, and not like I have a million like baller notes here, but like I think the best one I ever wrote was like I was on a plane, I boarded a plane, I was waiting to take off, and I said to San Francisco at the beginning of the year, I go, Mission 2026. I don't even, it was my Mission 2026 note, and it was something about building with nothing more than a laptop. I'd have to go and pull it up, but you can go back in my feed and find it. And it's like I got off the plane and it had like blown up, and like tons of new people were subscribing and following. And the point is it's not like I was trying to do that. The point
Yes.
is if you just say something that you're like, you can say something
Just
you're
say it.
thinking, something that's on top of your mind, and there's somebody else out there that is going to like resonate with that. It's going to speak to somebody in some way. And I think it got so much traction because there's so many people like seeing the same stuff we're seeing. It's not like we see stuff that other people don't see. We're just like trying to like make a move now instead of like waiting on it for the right moment. Cause there's, I think it's a parent thing. There's no right moments. It's like, oh, I have 5 minutes to do something. Great. I'm going to work on something for 5 minutes.
There's a question here. Does timing play a role in note virality? I'll tell you what I think about this. It's not timing like, is it 5 p.m. or is it 9 a.m. or whatever? I don't think. I think the timing piece is if you're hitting when like the collective consciousness is feeling something similar.
Mm.
And it can be a variety. Like it could be like a thing that happened. Like I wrote a piece about this. It could be like a thing that happened. Like, do you remember when that couple got caught on the Coldplay
The Coldplay
Jumbotron
concert?
for
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a moment in history that if you would have if you made a meme during that time, if you talked about workplace affairs,
Mm.
maybe your niche is relationships, and you wrote something that might have hit different than if you wrote about that same thing on a time that didn't happen. You know what I mean? Or things, timing in terms of what are people experiencing right now. Like a lot of people are experiencing, do I feel hesitant to share what I'm going to write on Substack?
Yeah.
A lot of people are feeling, am I too old to start? A lot of people are feeling the identity thing, maybe that we talked about. Like, what
Yep.
if I used to be this for all my life and now I'm going to do this? Am I allowed to do that? Like, I think that's more of a virality thing, or even like identity stuff. Like, I saw a note that positively went viral. I know that I linked it in one of my posts recently. Her name is Annie. Her last name is like Pecci or something. I don't know how to pronounce it. She talks to multi-passionate creatives. And so if the note says like, this is multi-passionate creatives, blah, 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 blah. But it wasn't just that, because she said that before and the note didn't go viral. But this particular one, what she said exactly, it was short, it was sweet, it was to the point, it hit you in the gut. And I mean, seriously, it had like over 200 reshares. It was like in the thousands of likes. Why? Because a lot of people say, hey, I'm a multi-passionate creator. That's me.
Right.
You're talking
Right.
to me. And people read from the point of view of, is this for me or is this not for me? So if you can write from the point of view of, this is for you, it's not about me, then you're going to have a likelihood of.
And I have a very specific take on virality where, and this comes from my time spent in production, where I've been on sets where literally the client has said, well, we're making this to go viral. And I'm just like,
it's not going to.
That's not a thing. That's not how it works. So specific to virality, instead of, in my head, this is how I think about it. Maybe this is helpful. Instead of thinking, how do I get this to take off? How do I get this to go viral, so to speak? It's like, no, if to kind of blend the two sides, Tracy, what you said, where it's like, if something's going on, if something is of the moment and you have an opinion or it's affecting your life in a specific way, just put that on the page and like put it out. And, you're not the only one thinking that.
Right.
There's way too many people in the world for you to be the only person thinking that.
I'm going to mispronounce your name, so I'm sorry, but Farida, I'm not sure.
Farida?
I'm sorry. I apologize if I'm saying it wrong. My sincere personal note are the one that got traction. And agree. It's like, if your personal note resonates with other people going through a similar personal thing, then that's going to gain traction for sure. That's how it works.
All my personal notes have been the ones that get the most traction. And this is someone, I mean, we have a divergence in audience size. Like, you have just crossed like 1,100 or something like that. You're kind of on the come up, and I'm still like building from a smaller foundation, which I feel like I'm just shy of 500 subscribers on my Substack, which I actually feel like in a really unique and privileged place to like have conversations like this, because I think there are a lot of people audience wise that are like in my boat who are like, okay, I'm trying to like get there or get a little ahead. And it's like this weird, like you can read any number of places on the internet where somebody is saying the hardest moat to cross is like going from 0 to 1,000, whatever, followers, subscribers, doesn't matter what it is. But, you know, I'm in that. I'm in that right now. And
Yes.
it's just really interesting. So when I say something went viral for me, that is on a much smaller scale than something going viral for somebody else, but it all still counts.
Well, and sometimes people, I mean, I've definitely had stuff reach, like, you know, I've had posts reach like 6,000. I don't have 6,000 subscribers. So that's the
Sure.
cool thing about Substack is that it can be seen if it's like, it's both an email list and a social media, which makes it really cool. But you're right. I think it's a unique advantage right now to have under 1,000 and under around that because you're building in real time in Substack 2026.
Mm-hmm.
Like these people who have like 30,000, 40,000 subscribers, they got a head start, which is awesome. I wish I would have
Which is great.
been
Yeah.
there at that time. But they're also bringing their knowledge from what was working in 2022. That might not be relevant anymore. You know,
Totally. And
and
yeah,
you know, you don't know you see that number, but you don't know how many people are opening their, you know, you don't know.
for sure. And what's really cool, yeah, exactly. You don't know what their engagement is like. I mean, at some point, like a number, like a big number, like what's their return on that big number. But what's really cool, at least on my end, is like I can have one-on-one interactions with people over DMs. Um,
Yeah.
you know, I can have like more engaged conversations. It's been really cool to like not be under some sort of like onslaught of like a big number at this stage where I can like build relationships. And I've done a lot of that. Like I've done a few like recommendation trades with other publications, but all the people that are recommending me, I know. Like I've talked to one of my
You know
one of
what?
my
I
little
don't know. You know, they say that like I've seen a lot of people say, especially the big creators are like, "Oh, recommendations, that's where it's at." I don't know if I agree with that.
that's totally fine. You
Unless,
know,
I mean, I have yet to find out because I don't have anyone who has 50,000 subscribers recommending me.
but
But
you know what
when
it
I
was
look
for
at the
me?
numbers, it's like, meh, I'm getting more subscribers from just what I do
Well, it's interesting
or
to
or
kind of
from
have,
the network in general. Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting to have like both sides of the coin, right? Because
Yeah.
I notice that when I'd say like a few times a week, I'll get a subscriber or two, maybe three that come in from some of these other publications that are recommending me. And that was when I set it up, and this is kind of coming back to like the building authentically piece that we've kind of been talking about. It's like none of this was me sitting down and being like, okay, how am I going to hack this system? No, it was just like, all right, this is the thing I know exists. I want to give an earnest shot at like growing this audience and growing this publication. What's available to me? Oh, recommendations. Great. I actually like read and engage with these people's stuff. So I'm going to reach out to them. Like I sent messages. My thing is I sent personalized Loom videos. So I got on,
That's a great idea.
I
I
just
think
talked to a camera and I just said, "Hey, what's up? Blah 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 blah. Whatever." I mean, it wasn't cold. It was all people I'd like interacted with previously, like either through comments or DMs or whatever. And I just sent a Loom. I was like, "Hey, really love your publication. I'm recommending you." Well, blah blah blah. I didn't even ask for a recommend back necessarily. It was just like, "This is what I'm doing."
it's a great
Um,
idea. The Loom thing is great. And actually, I think this is why I love podcasting so much in general. And I think you can weave in some of these type of things in your to your Substack if writing is feeling slow or whatever, just to make some more connections. You can do lives if that's scary. You could just read your whole Substack on an audio and paste the audio in there. I know a lot of people are just clicking the AI thing, you
I
know.
don't love that. I don't love
I don't
that.
either. I mean, but
Mm,
I know there's people. I know it's good. It's probably good for people who maybe are here, you know, vision impaired or whatever. That's true.
totally
But
fair.
it's not necessarily a thing that you would do to help. You can make connections because it's an AI robot. So if you want to do it, why not take? How long does it take to record it? You know what I mean? What does
Well,
someone say?
Farida, Well,
It's a
here, Tracy,
trap.
you read that for a second.
As when
The one thing I
someone
was going
subscribed
to,
to a newsletter, they will recommend others, but along the way, these audiences didn't want you or look for you. You were kind of a bonus. No, I agree. You know what? I don't necessarily like, to be honest, if I subscribe to a new subscription and then the next page comes up and it says, do you also want to subscribe to these other
sure,
45 subscriptions? I always say skip because I
same.
don't have, that's not the moment where I'm going to go, I'm shopping for newsletters. I'm not. So I think that's kind of a stupid way of doing it. I think over time, that might stop working but I do know there's another page, like on your home screen and the website.
Yes.
I think there's that little part at the bottom where it says Tracy
And I'm
recommends. Da,
I'm
da, da.
focused I'm focused on that because
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the
yeah.
splash screen stuff never I know
I
I just
skip
talked
it.
about recommendation. I skip every single time because it's like
Yeah.
no. I hit subscribe to this because I want it. I want
I don't
this.
want
I
to
don't
go
want
through
the
all
other
these
stuff.
other ones.
Yeah,
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 I don't
yeah,
want
yeah.
that.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Um, what else was I going to say? Yeah, I mean, just to circle back really quick to like the accessibility aside from like the AI
Yeah,
voice
yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever,
exactly.
it's like it depends on who you are. If you're comfy in front of a camera or on a microphone, like I'm totally fine with it. If I have the time to do it, and I've done it in the past, maybe I'll do it again. Sit and read down my newsletter and add it to the thing.
Yeah.
Cool,
I know
great.
I'm telling everyone to do it. I haven't done it yet, but it's an idea.
Yeah, do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
Uh, yeah. Um,
But but yeah, I mean, I think it's a cool thing. And I think there's so many, it is easy to get overwhelmed too, because I'm like, I need to do video. I need to do more lives. I could do a whole podcast. I could do this. I could do that. And it does get overwhelming. So it's
yeah.
just like, take a deep breath, one thing at a time. But
Well,
but
yeah, and
overall, I think it's really freaking awesome. And I pretty much stopped using. I would like to. I keep saying I'd like to figure out some other way to feed other people to my Substack, like from outside. But I hate LinkedIn. Instagram, I get no traction when I do that. And I do have an audience over there, but it's a dead audience right now. So I don't know. I don't know.
yeah. It's I think this is a good way to like kind of like wind it down because I know we were trying
Yeah.
to put somewhat of a time limit on this, but it's like to kind of like tie it all up in a bow with the whole like being like I don't know the right word to say, like the right term. I was trying to come up with something, but it's like kind of like an on the ground or in the weeds creative where it's like, you're out physically doing the creative work and all this stuff coming from that background into something new that's more like online focused. Um, and to kind of tie it into the whole like, yeah, we're doing a live stream on Substack as like our platform of choice. I think it's a really interesting place to be because my experience with other social media channels and blah 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 have been the same. My former business mentor would say the same thing. He's got like 300,000 or 400,000 followers on Instagram, and he'll be the first one to say it's like a mile wide and an inch deep. Like he doesn't get that much out of it,
Yeah.
other than a little bit of like lead flow. So it's like looking at the online pivot and where you're like looking to build that foundation. This has proven to be, and not that I have a wealth of experience in this space, but this has proven to be the place where it has kind of a little bit of everything I'm looking for. Yeah,
Yes.
you can write and own your email list, which is like paramount, but also you can experiment with stuff. You can, do live streams like this. You can, there is a discovery component through notes. Like all that stuff has been really
Exactly.
interesting.
Exactly. I
Um,
love it.
all my traffic comes from external promotions. Jason, show me your secrets.
Less
That's
than
cool. That's awesome.
10% comes from Substack. I
Right
wonder
on.
where he promotes. That's pretty cool.
We're all waiting for you to type
We're
something,
waiting.
Jason, in the chat.
Well, I got to wrap it up actually, because
Yeah,
in 5 minutes
totally
I got
fine.
to go to pick up my daughter.
Hey,
So,
totally got it.
yeah. So this
I'm
was
so happy
fun. We
this
should do
worked out.
another one.
I
Yeah.
would totally be down to do it. We will keep our time zones straight.
Yes.
We
Thank you
totally
all
figured
for
it out.
coming. You post to Facebook. Yeah,
Post Facebook.
that works. I have like a bunch of friends and followers over there. When I've done it, it's been meh. So, but I guess I could just keep doing it, just keep
Yeah,
pumping it out
keep
without
showing
really
up.
watching it. Yeah, but
But this is awesome. There's like almost 30 of you here. This is super
love it.
cool. Was not expecting this amount of people to show up. Pleasantly surprised. I was waiting with bated breath to see if we got our time zones correct, and we did. We both showed up at the same
I know,
time.
right at the same time where someone knocked on my door at 12:58. I was like, damn it.
Go away.
So
Well, thank you everybody for joining, and we'll do another one in the future.
yes.
And if I assume you know, but just in case, Tracy writes the second act strategist, and I'm Drew. I write No Set Path, both on Substack. Come find us, chat with us. It'd be great to see you.
Yes, awesome. We'll see you later.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.